All right, we are live. We're going to wait for more people to get in here, obviously, but recapping the sixth round for the Patriots, they made three picks, just like earlier in the day in the fourth round. They're up to six picks on the day, which seems crazy. But sixth round, they end up going with. Let me pull everything up just so I make sure I get everything correct. Kevin Harris, running back out of South Carolina, with pick number 183. Sam Roberts, defensive line, with pick 200, and then Chasen Hines, offensive line, with pick 210. Um, Now we're starting to get to a point where it feels like a Patriots draft, right? They went out, they grabbed a running back. It's the second running back, but a running back nonetheless. It always feels like they end up grabbing one towards the end of the draft. Offensive and defensive linemen every year. They usually grab multiple. They've got two guards now that they've drafted, plus the center, plus I guess Chasen Hines is center as well. So we're gonna bring Pat in. We haven't had him on today yet, and we're gonna see his thoughts on this because I gave you my thoughts on the fourth round, so he'll get his thoughts on the sixth. Pat, how
What's
we
up?
feeling, Pat?
How's it going? The lighting down here is horrendous. Hold on, I'm gonna go in the other room. I'm on my phone here because I had Violet's dance recital today. So uh
Tough scene. You hate to see it.
yeah, it was fun. It was fun. We had a blast.
So
mean,
let's start from the beginning. We'll start with Kevin Harris, running back, South Carolina, second running back they've drafted today. Uh, I know you have an opinion on this.
I just hate it. I hate it. Well, the good news is he ran a 4.62, so that's good. So at least he's got some. Oh wait, oh crap, doesn't have any speed. Oh well, at least he's strong. He did do 21 bench reps on the bench. So, but like, what the hell are you drafting another freaking running back for? I don't understand why you're drafting another running back. And so
Well,
I
I'll play
just
devil's advocate. Let me
yeah,
let me play devil's
sure,
advocate because Damien
do it.
Harris is up at the end of the year.
Yep,
Uh, they've never paid a running back. James
that's
White
true.
coming off a hip injury, wrong side of 30.
Yep,
I think they drafted two depth guys who could very well be players that they end up relying on late in the season. Damien Harris has never completed a full season without missing a game. I know he's only 3 years into his career, but he redshirted his whole first year. He got hurt in his second year. I think he missed 2 games. He missed 2 games last year. Ramondre Stevenson, can he be a bell cow and just take over all of the reps? Who knows? So now they
right.
add a guy in Pierre Strong who can do everything and is a fast guy who can play in the passing game. He said on his conference call with the media that that's something he prides his game on is the fact that he can play in the passing game. And then the South Carolina kid, dude can jump. Kevin Harris, he can jump. He's
Yeah,
physical. He's very strong. He feels like the kind of guy where they're like, all right, we're going to give you the ball within the 5 yard line. He's going to find his way into the end zone. So
yeah.
I,
No, and listen, you're
it's the
not you're not
sixth
wrong
round.
about that.
Who's
You're not
upset
wrong
about
about
sixth
that.
round
I just
picks?
what pisses me off is what they did in the fourth round because you waste the pick on Bailey Zappa or Zappy, whatever the hell his last name is. It's a waste. It's a
Sappy.
complete waste of a pick. It's a complete waste of a pick. There's no point in doing that. And then you wait from the fourth all the way to the sixth. You don't make any trades. They're going to make all seven picks tonight and today, and I cannot believe that. If you had bet me, I would have bet you my life savings they wouldn't have made all seven picks today, and they're going to make all seven picks today. And I just think it's stupid because look at how many good players went between Bailey Zappi and and the running back from I can't remember his name. The Karras, the running back
Kevin
from
Harris.
South Carolina. Like it's stupid. Like what are you doing? And that's like I know you're trying to build a team. You're team building. I get that, but like I don't. What the hell is a backup quarter? Like you have Stidham and Hoyer on the team. Stidham and Hoyer both stink. So what? They're your backup. Who cares if they
Oh,
stink or not?
Pat, do you forget 2008 when your quarterback goes down and then they had a good backup and it was a guy who they competed.
Was he
Do
though?
you really? No, we saw in 2020 when they had a bad starter in the
Right.
first place in Cam Newton. When he went down, you remember that Kansas City game. The team played well. And then out comes Brian Hoyer, who forgets it's fourth down and throws the ball away and
Listen, you're
ends the
not.
first half when they could have been
Yep.
up at halftime.
You're not
I,
wrong. You're
I
not
just
wrong about any
I
of that
don't
stuff.
understand. You've got your fan hat on. I understand it. That's who you are. That's why we love you. But it's the fourth round. Who
Right,
gives a
but they
shit?
were no because I do because I want guys like Zion McCollum who ran a 6'4", 6'3" cone drill and is 6'3", 225. Like that's the type of guy that I want, where it's like, give me more athletes to throw. Don't give me Jack Jones, who's a 24-year-old guy who's like, yeah, he's fine, but like, and gets arrested and like whatever, and like, don't give me that guy. Give me Zion McCollum instead. Like I just, and then you draft Bailey Zappa, and then now you draft another running back, and it's like, okay, we got two running backs, and you're right. Like you might be right. Harris might end up being a good player. They might trade away Damien Harris, which at this point, if I'm Damien Harris, I'm looking at it saying, writing's on the wall. Like I better get the hell out of here because they don't want me around. They obviously don't. Like they know I'm not long for this world. And I think the Patriots kind of, like anyone that follows the Patriots knows that. Like you're right, they've never paid a running back. They're never going to pay a running back. But like still, I think that, the writing is really now on the wall for Damien Harris. And listen, if that's what you're going to do, that's what you're going to do. It's fine. Ultimately, it's the sixth round. Like you said, it's pick 183. Like it doesn't really matter. But like, it just kind of is what it is. And they made the trade before the draft with Houston. And then the punt god goes off first pick of the sixth round. So it's like, maybe they would have taken him in the fifth if they had that pick still. So, and maybe they wouldn't have, but you get the idea.
They originally had 2 fifth-round picks, and they traded both of them. I just don't think they wanted anything to do with
Belichick hates the fifth round.
Yeah, and to do it before the draft, like who knows who was going to be available? Maybe there ended up being like Damone Clark ended up going in the fifth. Maybe that was the guy they would have been interested in.
I loved him. Yeah.
I kind of understand the fact where if you don't feel comfortable drafting there, if you think that's kind of a wasteland in terms of value, go ahead and get out of it and just get more lottery chips. And we talk about it every year. Day 3 is a lottery. It's
true. Yeah.
Mike Onwenu is the realistic example. Like Tom Brady's not a realistic example.
Right.
Mike Onwenu, who's a guy who came in his rookie year, was never supposed to start, ended up having to start because of injury, and played really well. Year 2, he ends up getting stuck kind of in a situation where he never played bad, never played poorly. It just, Ted Karras was better on that side where they needed him. Shaq Mason was their right guard, and they needed a left guard, and Ted Karras was a better option at left guard than Mike Onwenu was. So it was never really his fault he didn't play last year. It's just he got stuck in a spot where they didn't value him as much as somebody else. So he's going to come in next year, and he's probably going to be a starter. There are guys that you find like that. Like Bailey Zappe's never going to play quarterback for the Patriots unless Mac Jones gets hurt. We all know that. But if, like, Jimmy Garoppolo played in 3 games or whatever before he got traded, and Jacoby Brissett played in a couple games, and he ended up getting traded, and you ended up getting value for those guys. So I can't be mad at it.
That's a good point. Yeah.
It's a valuable position. It's not a valuable player. Like, no one was clamoring for Bailey Zappe, but that position, you could be a shit bum, and somebody would get a 5th-round pick for you.
It is interesting that they didn't go Sam Howell because Howell has kind of the bigger name, and so you think maybe if he's the guy. But again, like who knows? He didn't get drafted till afterwards too, so who knows? Yeah,
that goes to a medical thing or
That's
medical thing as well, because everything that we've heard since he got drafted was yikes, that shoulder it's going to fall off next month. So
Chad Pennington. So the other guy, Sam Johnson, who literally isn't in NFL.com, like NFL.com, because I'm following along. Sam Roberts. I'm sorry. I'm following on NFL.com, and it just says Sam Roberts, D tackle, but then it has no school, and I was like, what? He doesn't have a profile on NFL.com, but wins the award for the best defensive player in non D1. Has some NFL traits, has NFL size, and is a long shot necessarily maybe to make the roster or to long shot to make the roster looking at what they have, but who knows if he comes out and balls out in training camp and plays well, then maybe they move on from some other guys that they like, maybe a Devon Godshot, maybe a guy like that where they can move on from him because they have this 6th-round rookie that played well. And if he doesn't, then you either stash him on the practice squad for the year or, he gets the Foxborough flu and ends up on the IR and you see if he can, contribute something next year. I mean, that's the type of 6th-round pick that I like because I'm like, all right, you go after a guy at a position that the Patriots covet, in the 4th round. I think it was the 4th round, the Raiders traded up. Yeah, it was right before they drafted the running back from South Dakota State. The Raiders traded up right before them and drafted Neil Farrell. And that was a guy that I loved Raiders moved up, and I said, when the Raiders moved up, I said, oh, they're going to take a Patriots guy. Like, they're going to take a guy the Patriots would have drafted, and that's exactly what they did right before the pick. So, to me, I like that. You take a shot at defensive tackle, and what they put a premium on, which they did with Dominique Easley, and they did with Christian Barmore last year, and they've done with other guys in the past, is getting pass rush from the interior is beneficial for any quarterback. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is. If you can get a pass rush in their face in the middle, sure, maybe they can try to bounce it outside. But if you have strong edge rushers as well, if you have it rush up the middle, it screws everything up, right? So I think take a shot at that. What the heck, you know what I mean? And the last kid from LSU who sounds like it said center, but it sounds like he's going to play guard at least initially. Kid's a monster, 6'3", 327. Like, he's a big guy, switched from D-line in
Good
2018.
athlete. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think he had, like a 30-inch vertical jump or something like that? I mean, that's wild for someone that's 325. So, you look at it and say, all right, here's another guy you can bring in, and you kind of see what you get there, right? And he's got like 34-inch arms too. So, not necessarily he's going to be able to play tackle, but you never know. Like, he has some position flexibility. So
yeah, I feel like we got to a point after the Kevin Harris pick, which I know you hated, but I can't get upset about 6th-round picks personally.
Right.
Now we're in the 6th round where everybody that they've drafted and the last 2 guys they drafted and everybody kind of around them, it's the comfort zone. We know these are the kind of players they're going to draft. They're going to draft linemen. One of them's he won the small school defensive player of the year. It's the same award Kyle Duggar won in 2019. So they had success with that guy. Obviously, completely different animal with a defensive lineman from a safety, but had success with that kind of player before. LSU offensive lineman who's a good athlete. Every team in the NFL is going to be willing to take a shot at that guy. They just were the ones that ended up doing it.
Yeah.
They've got one more pick left. I wonder, because now we've gotten to the point, and I was going to tweet this out and I forgot to, but now we're in the point in the draft where a lot of players are telling teams, or player agents are telling teams, do not draft him. He wants to dictate his future. He wants to know, he wants to put himself in a position to make a roster, right? If you're getting drafted right now, the likelihood is you're not going to be on the roster within 12 months. So guys like Jojo Doman and Justin Ross, like guys like that, they're probably not going to be available to you because they've told the team that I don't want to be picked here. I want to pick a spot where I believe I can make the roster. We saw it with Jacoby Myers. That's the perfect example where he picked New England because he was like, if that's the 1st-round receiver they got, then I sure as hell can make this roster.
Right.
And he did, and he's been great. So we're kind of in that boat. They're probably going to draft like a D2 offensive tackle who started like 67 games throughout his career. That's probably what they're going to end up doing. But this year, we've seen they're doing some weird shit this year. So it could be a quarterback. Who knows?
Yeah. I think day three kind of not ruins it for me, but day one was obviously a surprise with Cole Strange, and then day 2, you have Tyquan Thompson, Thornton, I'm sorry, and you can get excited about Thornton only because he's so damn fast. And then Marcus Jones, I've talked about 100 times. Like, I love Marcus Jones. Like, he's my guy. So I'm like, all right, like, that's it. Now I'm looking at it saying, I don't care about anything else. And then you start off day 3, and you take Jack Jones, who I never saw it with him. Then you take a running back who looks good, who admittedly looks good. I will tell you, I watched 0 seconds of running back film this offseason because I was like, oh, the Patriots are never going to draft running back, which is stupid because obviously they were going to draft a running back because Damien Harris is in his contract year. But I was like, no, they drafted one last year. They're not going to draft one. So I was just like, no, I'm not going to look at running backs. So, but what I had seen was that this kid, was probably the best, not the best of the bunch, but the best of like that later tier bunch. And then you draft a quarterback and you're like, man, are you kidding me? And then you don't have a pick for, a ton of picks. And then you draft another running back, and I'm like, come on, give me something, man. And so, like, overall, this day 3 has not been good for me. But, we'll see what happens. Maybe they still end up drafting a guy like Jojo Doman. Maybe they draft a linebacker. Maybe they draft a wide receiver and try to take another one into camp. Like, I don't know which way they're going to go, but I am happy they went D-tackle. I'm surprised they didn't go edge. That's surprising to me.
I agree.
Did Isaiah Thomas get drafted out of Oklahoma? He did, right? Or did he not? And then again, see, the problem is I haven't been watching. I've just been trying to follow along as best I can.
I
but
don't
I'm
remember
not
hearing
getting
his
all the
name.
updates. So like I loved that guy out of Oklahoma. I don't know if he's still available, but like at 245, that's a guy that like possesses some of that traits, like outside guy, long. He's kind of physical too. Like I was a big fan of his. So at 245, I'd be down with something like that because you haven't drafted an edge guy, which I thought was a need for them, right? And maybe not. Maybe they like Penny Jennings on the edge. I don't know. Maybe they think he can be an edge guy or Uche or what. I don't know. But or maybe it's maybe it's the kid from Oklahoma last year. Uh, Jesus, the red shirt. Why am I blanking
Ronnie
on his name?
Perkins.
Thank you, Ronnie Perkins, who again, as I said to Phil, was the only guy in college football last year that PFF gave a 90 grade or above to both against the pass and against the run. So, I'm fairly high on him too. So I guess we'll see. But
Yeah, I think
it's been a long day 3.
it's been tough for Pat. They're going full 3-4. I think it's very clear now that we're
Yeah,
seeing all these DBs that like they're probably going to go 2-3-6. Like
it kind of
they're
seems
going
like
to go
it.
crazy. So I think that's why they're leaning more towards defensive tackles and defensive line or edges because I'd rather have a smaller edge guy like a linebacker like Josh Uche than a bigger guy who just makes the front 3 very slow. If that
Which
makes
is true.
sense. So
No, that's a good point.
you throw
That's a good point.
Barmore and either Godchaw or Guy out there with Matt Judon, and then you can just throw athletes around him because you'll be all set. Barmore's athletic enough to play on the edge and hold his own. So
Right.
that's going to do it for round 6. They're going to make their pick in round 7. Then they might trade out for like a next year's 6th. Who knows? That they've done that before.
Yeah.
So we'll see. If it's an interesting name, we'll pop back on. If it's not, we won't. We're not going to waste our time. We did it last year with Trey Nixon, and the only reason was because it was Ernie Adams' last pick. So
Right.
we'll see. We might be back. We might not. I've got a ton of stuff to do. Pat's got children. So we'll see. We might be
we are
back.
going to do. We will do a day 3 kind of recap podcast,
right?
Not live,
And that will
again,
be out
just
tomorrow.
like we've done, and that'll be out tomorrow morning on the podcast feed. And then, of course, we'll do a draft recap with a special guest we've had on the last few years. So if you've been listening to us religiously, you'll know who it is. If you don't, you'll get a nice surprise this week. So
yeah, he's got takes. We're going to hear a lot of Malik Will's takes. So
can't wait.
Should be fun. Thank you guys for tuning in. We've had like huge engagement on these last 2, so
that's great.
We appreciate you guys, and we will see you later on today, maybe tomorrow.